All right, what is going on, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to a Thanksgiving episode of Talking Buffalo. This is you know what? Anthony Marino is with me from Buffalo Rumblings. I'm thinking about it as I was talking. This is 5.5 years, I think it's fifth, maybe sixth Thanksgiving. This is the first time I've ever done an episode actually on Thanksgiving. We're taping this Wednesday, though. So if any crazy shit happens on Wednesday and you're like, why didn't you talk about this today? Well, it's because we taped it early Wednesday, like we usually do. But anyway, like I said, recurring guest, good friend of mine, Anthony Marino from Buffalo Rumblings, is joining me on this holiday. What's going on, buddy? How you doing?
Hey, man. Happy Thanksgiving.
Same to you. Same to you. Let me ask you this. Where does, and by the way, this is not going to be a long episode. I know people are sitting there getting ready to eat their turkey, watch football all day. I'm not going to try to drop no hour episode on you like we usually do. But I will have Anthony right back with me tomorrow, and we'll kind of deep dive a little bit into the Bills-Eagles game. We'll do our predictions and all that other fun stuff. But this being Thanksgiving, let me start here, buddy. Where does Thanksgiving rank like on your favorite holidays power rankings?
Yeah, it's right near the top.
Yeah.
And I say that not just because like caught up in the spirit, and it's a little bit like, it's that transition of Thanksgiving, maybe that weekend, like you're starting to do some shopping or you're starting to do your decorations. Like it just seems to be like that kickoff of just a great, great time. And now my kids are a little bit older. Obviously, I'm a little bit older, right? Like it's Thanksgiving, it's about food, it's about football, it's about family. I always think it's just a great day. And for me, I think like selfishly, not thinking of my kids or anybody else. Yeah, Thanksgiving's probably my favorite day.
It's third on my power rankings of how
I'm sure you have a running power
I
ranking.
power rank everything, dude. I power rank everything. Christmas is number one. Just because Christmas is an entire season. Thanksgiving is awesome. I love Thanksgiving. It's third. It's up high. But I just like Christmas season, man. The music, the whole season, the weather, putting up Christmas shit. It's always been my favorite. And then probably my second one, and I know this is a very Irish thing to say, but if you're watching this on the video side, I got my little green buffalo hoodie on here. St. Patrick's Day. Because to me, I know for most people it's just one day, but for some people, including me, it's kind of a season in itself too. Especially at least in Buffalo, anyway. I mean, you got your obviously, your St. Patrick's Day, the parade. You got your first ward parade. You got the Shamrock Run. There's just parties going on. There's just the music. So I'm just a big St. Patrick's Day fan. So I kind of talking about my Irishness a little bit here. Too much. But anyway, when it comes to Thanksgiving, are you hosting Thanksgiving? You guys going somewhere else for Thanksgiving?
No, we are not hosting this year. We hosted last year, so this year it makes it easy too. Like, you bring a couple things with you, prepare a couple things in advance, but you get to kind of show up, help clean up, and then end of the night we'll be back at our house, which will be nice.
Yeah, we're going to my sister-in-law's for Thanksgiving. Same deal too. I think actually we hosted it last year. My father-in-law, they have a guest house. My sister-in-law where my in-laws live. And my dad's really old and I love him to death, and he's still doing pretty good, but his foot's bothering him. He can't get around much anymore.
Yeah.
So we just decided to bring Thanksgiving there this year. Football wise, 3 games on, and that's kind of been the new tradition anyway with the night game. No Buffalo Bills this year on Thanksgiving. Are you happy with that? Like, did you have the last couple of years? Do you like when the Bills play? Because they've played historically a couple times before that as well. But do you like when the Bills play on Thanksgiving? Like, what's your preference?
I do. Like I said, last year we were hosting. The timing of the game made it a little crazy. I was trying to plan everything out with dinner not to interfere with the game. But when you're hosting and prepping, that's a little bit different. So I did not get to enjoy that game against the Lions last year as much as I should have. But I really do like the Thanksgiving game, right? Because it's like you're watching football that day. It's the Bills. I mean, at least for these last 3 years that they've been on, they've won. They're good. So that part certainly helps. And this might be an unpopular opinion. I liked when they were the night game on Thanksgiving, right? When they were playing down, who was it? At New Orleans, I think it was. And because it was sort of like Thanksgiving's done, you're in your sweatpants, you're feeling stuffed, whatever, and then you got the Bills game to look forward to. So I get it for those fans that go to all the games, that them playing on Thanksgiving is not something that they enjoy. Certainly for the players and the coaches and the front office and their families, I'm sure it's like probably one of their least favorite games. But selfishly, I have always enjoyed when the Bills have played on Thanksgiving.
Well, last year they played in Detroit, and it was whatever in terms of a place to go to. Nothing against Detroit, but 2 years ago, New Orleans. I know a lot of people who went to that, and they were just talking about what a fun time it was being in New Orleans for Thanksgiving. See, dude, I am like ultra superstitious. I don't like when the Bills play. I don't ever want. All right, let me take that back. Let me walk that back a little bit. I didn't hate the Bills playing on Thanksgiving the last couple years, and of course they've won 3 straight now on Thanksgiving. But I don't ever want them to play on Thanksgiving again, and it's because again, being superstitious. Von Miller tears his ACL in Detroit. Trey White tears his ACL in New Orleans. I'm like, I'm good with these major ACL injuries, so I don't need the Bills playing. Plus, it kind of goes back to just any other week too, not even Thanksgiving. I just like the Bills playing Sunday. I still prefer 1:00. I will admit, though, 4:00 last week against the Jets, that didn't feel as bad. Maybe it's just because the Bills have played so many freaking primetime games, which I didn't like. I liked primetime games when they didn't get a lot of them. But now they're on primetime like 5 times a year. It's too much. It makes the day too damn long. It is cool, though, because I actually get to take advantage of the red zone. When the Bills aren't playing at 1:00 on Sunday, that's cool because I'll just slap that on and get to watch all the games. But yeah, man, I'm good with no Thanksgiving games and I'm good with no primetime games. Sound like an old angry guy right now, but
it's all good. I think, you think all the time the schedule would come out, the Bills are in the drought. You could guarantee everything was basically 1:00. Maybe you'd get one primetime game.
Right.
Maybe it was a crappy Thursday night football matchup when they would try to do those pieces. So fans would complain about that. Now, like many, it's like, oh my gosh, like I got to stay up till what on Sunday night or Monday night or whatever it is. But it was nice last weekend having the game at 4:25. I think that's a great window, and that it kind of, you can do enough stuff the rest of the day. Like you said, watch Red Zone at 1:00 if you want to. And then you're good. Another 4:25 this week.
Are you old enough to remember back when the Bills stunk every year and you would just hope for even one primetime game and maybe you get lucky and they'd be like on a Thursday night or something like that. That will be like the Bills. Because I think every team had to have one primetime game at some point anyway. But yeah, it's like they would stink and then you'd be like, oh, I hope they get to watch them in primetime at least once. And yeah, now it's like not so much, man. But anyway, where they be in Thanksgiving too? Are you a Macy's Day Parade? Like, is that any tradition? Do you watch it? Any of it?
We went once with the kids when they were young, and it was kind of like one of those pieces where it was like,
oh, you went?
Yeah, it was a fun experience, but it was also like anxiety inducing when you're just like this many people crammed into one place. You start to think to yourself like, good God, like the kids were little, like you're just trying to keep anyone from, getting stepped on or anything along those lines. So usually we will have it on in the background. Certainly when the kids were much younger, it was one of those things like, would always, be appointment viewing, but now it'll be on in the background, but everybody will be getting ready for the day.
It's, I still watch it. I still get a kick out of the lip singing, like some of the performances that go on and just how blatant the lip syncing is. When I was a kid too, that used to bother me. But now I got older, I kind of like it. So you actually went to one of the parades. I've always wanted to. I never did. It doesn't look like it's that busy on TV though. Obviously it is.
It's busy.
Yeah.
Because everyone's trying to get into certain spots where you can see, and there's a ton of people down there. It's one of those things, like I say, to do once, I think is great. And it wasn't one of those things that we said like, oh, we should really, really do this again.
Did you, so you spent a Thanksgiving there and obviously in New York City, like what did you do for actually Thanksgiving then? I'm talking about like meal wise, like you guys, I would assume you guys were at a hotel or something like that, making a trip out of it. Did you get turkey that day?
No, yeah. When we say we got turkey, so we were there the night before, stayed in New York. Then when the parade was done, got in our car and we were driving to Massachusetts to meet family there. So like we got to see family that then we were going to be with for the rest of the weekend. And actually we pulled off on the highway and the Cracker Barrel was packed to the gills, and we ended up having Thanksgiving dinner at Denny's that night, which certainly made it a story. My wife Michelle, she ended up getting like a more of the traditional Thanksgiving dinner. I think I got like a Grand Slam breakfast or something like that. I was so hungry. It was just like, yeah, give me pancakes, eggs, bacon, like load it all up. So
well, like you said, it's definitely something unique, and it's a cool memory for sure.
Totally.
All right, so we'll circle back to Thanksgiving here in a few minutes. Like I said, it's not going to be a long episode. Today, I want to spend a little bit of time talking about the Bills' offense, both what we saw last week against the Jets and just the offense in general right now, especially with the new offensive coordinator under Joe Brady. Circle back to Thanksgiving here at the very end. Tomorrow, we'll spend some time. I want to talk more, focus on the Bills' defense, and then jump right into some Bills, Philadelphia Eagles. What kind of a preview, and we'll have our predictions like we do when I have you on the show. All right, so when it comes to this offense, it's just how it's been all season. Like the numbers just indicate that they're better than what you see with the naked eye, and we've been seeing that for most of this season, especially after the Miami game. I mean, the first weeks 2 through 4, the offense was just legit good, and then they've struggled in big chunks. And of course, Ken Dorsey gets fired. I had you on the show last week, didn't I?
No.
I can't remember. Oh, yeah, that's right. I did an extra solo. So this is the first show I've had you on since Ken Dorsey got fired. That's right. I didn't have anybody on last week.
You were too emotional to talk to me last week. It was all good.
I literally had a bunch of solo shows, and then I did a live show on Friday with Chad DeDominicis. But besides that, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday were all solo. Anyway, yeah, so I forgot about that. Yeah, so Ken Dorsey gets fired. Joe Brady, the new offensive coordinator, and the Bills offense just came to life on Sunday against, and I've said this, when it comes to the Jets, I don't want to give the defense too much credit because I think the Jets offense is just an utter train wreck, and they should have dominated them. But the Jets defense, no matter what their record is, the Jets defense is elite. They were one of the best defenses in the NFL. And I thought the Bills offense was incredibly impressive. So just talk about that. Joe Brady coming in, some schemes, somewhat different. We saw like the running backs getting more involved in the passing game and stuff like that. But I feel like, Joe, sometimes beyond like play calls or X's and O's, sometimes you just need a change, a jolt. You know what I mean? A spark, whether it's football, maybe in your job, even people's relationships. Sometimes you need that spark to really get things going again. And clearly you could see just with the attitudes on the sideline, the enthusiasm. At the end of the day, it's still a game, and Josh Allen specifically, looked like a big kid out there enjoying playing football. And it certainly did not seem like that for a big chunk of the season. A lot of sulking, a lot of despondency in his pressers after losses, stuff like that. So I don't know. I feel like I saw a different Bills team, and certainly a different Bills offense last week.
Yeah, I mean, you certainly did, but it was interesting too, right? Because you think at the very beginning of the game, I mean, first off, Reggie Gilliam comes down, forces the fumble immediately on the opening kickoff, and you're just like, okay, that is a tone setter from this situation. Mm-hmm. Of course, then the Bills in red zone area, either just outside the red zone, nothing happens on offense, right? You got a drops from Stefon Diggs, Josh gets sacked. It's like you're looking at 3rd and long, and they end up having to kick a field goal. Mm-hmm. And almost initially the thought was just like, good gosh, like that doesn't look good, right? Like you get this fumble, you should be punching it in immediately. So right off the jump, there's a little bit of this just, oh my gosh, I don't know if the team, they liked Ken Dorsey is what I'm trying to say.
Sure.
Right. And is this going to backfire in that you make this change when maybe that's really not the problem? And all of a sudden now the team is kind of going in the other direction. Well, of course that happens. It's like they get the field goal. That's fine. Defense comes down, performs back and forth. And then you just really started to see things settle in a bit, right? And you saw, Josh start to make some throws. Yeah, still some drops here and there that you don't like to see, but you didn't see any of those mistakes. And Joe Marino did a great job talking about it this week after he looked at the all-22 of just like, hey, there's some things that didn't work, but like, let's talk about some of the pre-snap motion, like some of the things that people have been complaining about that with Ken Dorsey had just been so predictable. But the two things that really stood out to me, one, kind of that fire and that look in Josh Allen's eye that we had talked about, and you've seen some of the clips after the fact. And two, I need to make an apology because I think when I was on the show with you earlier, I had always been a guy that was just like, Khalil Shakir is just a guy, right? He was a 5th-round draft pick for a reason. No big deal. Like, why are we making, whether it's, him or Deontay Hardy or Trent Sherfield, whatever, like, he's a guy. If you have to cut him, you cut him. It's a 5th-round draft pick. No big deal. Now, as he's really started to settle in, he's certainly more than just a guy. And I think when you see Gabe Davis struggling, Khalil Shakir was a difference maker for the Bills offense this past week. He's definitely stepped up more these past couple of weeks and becoming more of a reliable target. And I think when you looked at it, one thing that will stand out aside from just the excitement from Allen and on the sideline was a kind of a conscious effort to get the ball to Khalil Shakir and to not get the ball to Gabriel Davis. Now, maybe that was just what the Jets were doing or whatnot, but to Khalil Shakir, a guy that I was saying was just a guy, I was definitely wrong with that, and I wanted to publicly own that on the show today.
I'm sure if Khalil Shakir is watching or listening, he will accept your apology, Anthony Marino. All right, I'm going to take a real quick break. Come back. I want to throw some Bills offensive numbers at you. You brought up Gabe Davis, and I definitely want to talk about him as well. So be right back. All right, I am back here with Anthony Marino from Buffalo Rumblings, our Thanksgiving episode. All right, you talked about Khalil Shakir before the break and going back to this Jets game, and it's just one game, but it's also just one game under Joe Brady, and I really like what I saw. And one of the things that I liked most about what I saw from this Bills offense, you talked about the motion a little bit. I saw a stat from, it was Doug Farrar from USA Today, talked about 15 times the Bills used motion and Josh threw on him, and 15 times he completed a pass. It was 15 of 15, or all 15 of his completions, I should say, were on motion plays, something like that. Bottom line is this. What I'm trying to tell you is that the Bills were moving around a lot less predictable. And also the ball distribution, I was a real big fan of. Stefon Diggs only had 4 catches for 27 yards. He's been their horse all season long. Gabe Davis, no catches, no targets. But yet the Bills scored 32 points, which is the most the Jets gave up to anybody all season long. And part of that is because of the running backs. 6 receptions between 2 of them, 76 yards, 2 touchdowns. I'm talking about James Cook and Ty Johnson, which is funny because you want to give an apology, or you did, to Khalil Shakir. I give an apology to Ty Johnson because I kind of lost my shit during the when the inactives came out 90 minutes before the game. I was really pissed off that Leonard Fournette was not elevated. Like, why are they using Ty Johnson? He ain't better than Leonard Fournette. Maybe he is, at least in this offense. Joe Brady clearly had a role for him. He didn't just have him active. He had a role for him in this game, and he delivered huge. Shakir, 3 catches for $115 and the touchdown, an 81-yard touchdown, biggest play of the year for the Bills. And Dalton Kincaid, who's become the star, man, 6 catches for 46 yards. So you add that up. You add up the running backs, Shakir and Dalton Kincaid, and you got 15 catches for 237 yards and 2 touchdowns. The Bills are 7th in points this year, and they're 6th in yards. So, I mean, again, this offense statistically has looked pretty good all season long. But Gabe Davis, oh God, man, I'm such a big Gabe Davis guy. I've been a Gabe Davis guy for a long time. I'm not going to hate on him. I'm not going to hate on him because, you want the ball spread around. You want the running backs. You want to run the ball somewhat effectively. You want your running backs involved in the passing game. You want Kincaid to keep emerging. Stefon Diggs is Stefon Diggs. Shakir is really starting to step up. It's only one football. Josh Allen's starting to run the ball more. We've been craving and, yearning for that. And now we're starting to see a little bit more of that. somebody's numbers are going to suffer. And it's clearly is Gabe Davis, who's got 0-0 and 1 catches in 3 of his last 4 games. That Tampa game feels like an anomaly. He was a big part of that game plan, but hasn't done anything since. How do you feel about that? The only thing that's changed for me is I realize this guy ain't going to be back next year because you're not going to pay, Gabe Davis 8, 9, 10, $12 million. But aside from that, how do you feel about this?
Yeah, it's interesting. And obviously Shakir stepping up helps. Dalton Kincaid stepping up makes a huge difference, right? I mean, for where he is now, it's just like, okay, bona fide receiving option, tight end, you name it. With Gabe Davis, it's tough because, we've talked about, I've been a fan of his for years. I thought the Bills should have extended him during training camp when he was doing so well. He's a team captain. Like I truly love the guy and I love the player that he is and what he brings to the team. But recently it has just not been there. And I just think to the play in the Denver game, right, where it's like the pass goes off his hands at like the 12-yard line early in the game, the Bills offense needs to get going, off his hands into the hands of the defender, interception. And it's just like, sometimes the drops, those mistakes, they just add up to a point where you wonder, like, okay, is this team, I want to say losing confidence in him because he's still playing 85% of the snaps, but losing confidence as a target. And I think for, with Joe Brady coming in, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Gabe Davis these coming weeks, like if he's getting the targets or if he really becomes, option number 4 behind Diggs, Kincaid, and Shakir.
A couple of things I want to say about Gabe Davis. Number one, Joe Brady made it a point to say he was one of the MVPs of the game and cited his blocking. And I watched the film, and he is a really good blocker.
Yeah.
I also respect the fact that he owned that interception that you're talking about last week against Denver. He said, the ball didn't go off Ken Dorsey's hands. It was my fault. You know what I mean? So he was kind of defending his offensive coordinator. Look, I got much love and respect for Gabe Davis. They're going to need him at some point. Right now, they don't. But there's going to come that game where if they're going to beat one of these really good teams and, they're shutting other stuff down, Gabe Davis is going to have one of those 3 or 4 catches for 110 yards and a touchdown. So they're going to need him at some point.
And it can happen. I mean, listen, we can look at things, and again, his teams will probably start to key more on Kincaid. Now, all of a sudden, maybe they have to key more on Khalil Shakir. Like, Gabe Davis might be the forgotten man when it comes to a defensive game plan. So, it might be one of those scenarios where it kind of falls off for a couple of weeks. And, we've seen him do it before. So in no way am I writing him off in any way, shape, or form. I just, it's puzzling, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. And, it's just, again, the only thing that's really changed for me is I just, the Bills and their cap situation and other things they're going to need to do. I don't think he's going to be back. I think he's playing out these last 6-7 games, maybe the playoffs. And
but I think it's going to be interesting because, listen, other teams watching this right now, what type of contract is he going to command? Like, I don't think anyone's going to look at this and just say, oh, it's because he's behind this one or that one. Like, something is just off. I mean, this could be a guy that says, listen, give me a 1-year, $6 million Juju Smith-Schuster type of contract. Let me try to get back and prove what I can be. Maybe that's kind of a situation for him because the way things are going, I don't know what kind of market he's going to command.
Yeah. Good point. I mean, I could see him having a 1-year prove a deal somewhere. One thing I do want to say is Dawson Knox, he's eligible to be back this week, but he's not. He's not even practicing yet. He will be back. I really, really hope that he becomes that secondary option at tight end. I know they play some 12 personnel. Quentin Morris played a lot of snaps against the Jets, so you're going to see that. And again, mixing it up is fine, but I want Dalton Kincaid better be on the field a lot. That better not change because this kid is really good. He's like 4th in the NFL among tight ends as a rookie among receptions. He looks like he's got that special gene in him. And just when Dawson Knox comes back, let him have a role, but it's got to change, when it comes to that position. Last thing, then I want to get to finish off with our finish the sentence. Stefon Diggs, 4 catches, 27 yards. He's only got 7 catches for 61 yards, no scores in his last 2 games. Now, you know, the media, the presser, not this week, last week, it was interesting. I thought the media asked a couple, the questions were fine. I just thought it should have been dropped right after that. And clearly, a couple people were looking for stories to write. I love Stefon. You haven't seen any issues, but at some point, do you worry, 4 catches for 27 yards, how well that's going to sit with him if this keeps happening? Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, I'll put it this way. I don't see any issues with it, and part of it is because he had 2 drops during the game on Sunday, right? So that part is on him. A matchup with the Jets and Sauce Gardner and those types of pieces. The offense was working, so I think that is fine. It is interesting when you talk about the narrative. A great friend of mine that's a Jets fan texted me the other day. He's like, God, Diggs is such a diva. Like, I hate that guy. He's this, he's that. And he's like, doesn't he just bother you the way he kind of is always this and that? And I'm like, man, I love him. Like, I love Stefon Diggs, what he brings to this team. Like, you want your wide receivers to be like him. So I don't foresee any sort of problem. Listen, wide receivers are always going to kind of grumble a little bit. Like, the great ones, they all grumble. And he is a great one. So it's like, and I'm expecting him to get targeted plenty against the Eagles on Sunday. So I don't see any issues here.
On the audio side, everything sounds perfect. But if you're watching the video, freezing up a little bit, but not a big deal. You're a handsome enough guy that even a still shot of you, that shit works. Anyway, yeah, look, man, I love Stefon Diggs. Dude just wants to win, man. That's it. Dude wants to win, period. End of story. All right, let's get to our finish the sentence segment. This is a Thanksgiving, pretty much eccentric edition of Finish the Sentence. For people who are new, which would be weird if you're new on Thanksgiving, but hey, you never know, man. These are just a couple questions I ask Anthony each time, an opportunity to get to know a little bit more about him and myself beyond just what we think about the favorite football team that we talk about so often. All right, Thanksgiving here. So my favorite non-turkey food for Thanksgiving is blank.
Stuffing. Not even a hesitation. The stuffing is elite. It is the best part of Thanksgiving dinner. It is I don't even need the turkey as long as the stuffing is there and it's good. Listen, I'm just telling you from this standpoint, like, the Thanksgiving stuffing to me is number one in my, not that I have power rankings like you do for everything, but if I did have power rankings, it would be the consensus number one. No hands, no questions asked.
All right, well, you're not going to like this. And I do have power rankings for everything. And when it comes to Thanksgiving, that power rankings consists of 2 things. Because there's only 2 things I eat. Number 1 is as much turkey as I can possibly get into my stomach. That's number 1. And number 2, and this is going to be the corniest basic thing ever, but biscuits. That's it. That's all I eat for turkey. I don't eat stuff.
That's all you eat on Thanksgiving dinner?
I put it, dude, I've been with my wife now for 24 years. We've been married for 22. We've had Thanksgiving with the family for pretty much all those years. And the first handful of years that I would come over, because it's always been at, my family's scattered. So it's her family that's here in Buffalo. They would look at me funny and even make fun of me because for years I would have a plate full of turkey and biscuits, and that's it. I would put like maybe 2 spoonfuls of corn on my plate just to look like I had something else, but I would never actually eat it. That's it. Turkey and biscuits. That is literally what my Thanksgiving consists of. That's it. Nothing else. No stuffing. No. And here's another thing you're gonna hate this even more. I don't like any of the desserts. I don't like any pies. I don't like pumpkin pie. I don't like any pie. There are no pies out there that I like. Not one. No apple pie.
I've never been more confused by you than I am right now. For all the conversations we can have, for different power rankings we've did, listening to your top 5 shows with Joe Yurden and different things you would do where I'd scratch my head sometimes. This has me more perplexed than anything about you. I never would have guessed this with you at all.
You're not the only one, buddy. You're not the only one who thinks that when it comes to Thanksgiving. It is what it is. All right. After you eat your big meal, by percentage, what is the chance that you're going to end up on the couch or somewhere or the chair or something dozing off?
Yeah, that's about 100%. Right. And usually it's just kind of like a 10 to 15 minute kind of, you sort of do the head bob like, oh, I guess I, fell asleep for a little bit. But, again, with plenty of family, I'm sure the kids will be running around kind of doing their thing. But, during the, that second football game after dinner where you're sitting there, there'll definitely be a little shut eye that'll take place.
Mine's usually 50-50. It'll probably be about 75 this year because it's Washington and Dallas at 4:00, and that's just going to be a snooze fest for me having to watch Washington play. So yeah, I'll probably at least doze off for 15, 20 minutes here and there. All right, last one here. The first Christmas song that you want to hear when Thanksgiving is over, that's going to make it feel like, for you at least anyway, Christmas season has officially arrived.
The Christmas Song by Nat King Cole. Like
Good one. Good one.
that is the classic Christmas song. Obviously Mariah is great and all those things. You think of, my gosh, the Boyz II Men Christmas album, the Preacher's Wife soundtrack, all these different things that you can listen to. I get a little quirky with NSYNC Christmas, all that kind of fun stuff. But when you're talking like traditional Christmas spirit, Nat King Cole.
That's a really good one. This for me is not my favorite Christmas song, but Rocking Around the Christmas Tree, that really gets me into the Christmas spirit. Again, it's not my favorite Christmas song per se. I mean, I could probably run down about 50 of them that I might even like more than that. But when I hear that, I'm like, all right, man, it is definitely Christmas time. And we're definitely going to get out of here. One more time, I want to thank you, Anthony. And you're going to be right back with me again tomorrow. So on behalf of Anthony, just want to say happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. And we'll be back. Black Friday episode, Bills Eagles preview. Let's stop messing around here. Right back with you tomorrow. Take care.